Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Season Ticket Holders. I'm your host, Dane Lillingstone, and it's just me today, guys. It is going to be a solo breakdown of the State of Origin teams. I've been in and around selections the last few weeks, talking to players, being out there with my job with Fox Sports News, and there has been some absolute bombshells. I think we've all seen the teams come out Monday morning, New South Wales and Queensland. Reece Walsh snubbed, James Tedesco back. There is some plenty of debutants potentially being named in both these teams. Of course, they do have six-man benches in line with the NRL, so it is going to be very interesting to see how this all works out. So they've gone with new faces instead of debutants. I believe there's four for Queensland, so six new faces in Laurie Daley's 20-man squad. So let's just get straight into it. And before I do break everything down, guys, I just want to send a big shout out to our first sponsor, National Freight Management. They specialize in domestic freight from cartons through to pallets nationwide. Gerard and the team do a great job. You can check out more information on nationalfreightmanagement.com.au. So thank you very much for getting on board. Guys, I'm going to start with Queensland today because the number one name, and I think it's on everyone's lips, is that the rock star, the reigning Clive Churchill medalist, Reece Walsh, has been snubbed. Of course, in saying that, Kalyn Ponga is the man who's never let Queensland down ever before. I think we all know that. He's won some games. He's had some game-winning moments in the past. Absolute superstar, has been named at number one as fullback. Mate, on Reece, I got to say, I disagree with Billy on this one because when you've got a player of Reece Walsh's ilk, of the superstar that he is, and we saw what he did in the grand final last year for the Broncos, he put that team on his back in that final month of the competition, and the run that he had for them to win the grand final, it's all-time, majestic, magical. What he was able to do with the Broncos hasn't ever been seen before. He won best on ground that night, and now he doesn't even crack his way into the team. I really thought that they were going to go Reece Walsh at one. That talk about Kalyn Ponga at halfback was nonsense. I guess it must have happened at some point for that information to get leaked. Billy Slater didn't delve too much into it at his press conference, but absolutely incredible the fact that Kalyn Ponga has just completely beaten Reece Walsh out. It sounded like, from listening to Billy's press conference, he did sort of say it was a similar situation to New South Wales opting to drop Dylan Edwards for James Tedesco. You just can't pick both. You can only pick one. You wouldn't really think you'd put another fullback on the bench. The thing that I differed from Billy was you could have Kalyn Ponga as your utility off the bench. I don't see why he adds that factor at 14, which is a job he has played for Queensland before. And if there are any injuries to the game, Kalyn Ponga can play in the halves. He can play fullback. He can come in and play through the middle in that lock roaming position in the last 20 minutes of halves. Or, if the game does need points and Queensland needs that spark off the bench, I don't really see where they have that now. And not having Reece Walsh in the team altogether is just an absolute shock to me. I can't believe it. I would have Reece Walsh there every day of the week, the rock star, one of the greatest players in the game. On the flip side, I understand that the Broncos have been shit at the moment. They are not going very well at all. Their performances have been pretty pathetic, really, the last few weeks. You have to look at it with clear lens, which is they have got injuries. They are missing Payne Haas, Katoni Staggs, even the likes of Corey Jensen, Brendan Priakora. They're depleted in their forwards. They've got a lot of young guys coming through. We saw Phil Coates make his debut on the wing on the weekend. And Reece Walsh has been well restricted. I think we only spoke about this podcast about that Manly game where he only ran for about 30 metres and they got absolutely demolished at Brookvale. So I know he's been down, but I still don't see how you can leave Reece Walsh out of the game because on his day, he's an absolutely game breaker. That's just to start it off all at number one. Number two for Queensland, Selwyn Cobbo gets his recall back into this Maroon side. Now, there were reports a few years ago he was on the nose with Billy Slater and there was a little bit of issue there, potentially about laziness or a few other things. It seems like whatever that was, whether that was just news rumour that wasn't actually true, Billy has given him another chance. It'll be his first game since 2024. I like to see him back. He's done really well since switching to the Dolphins in the off-season. I think it's well-deserved. We have to remember as well that Xavier Coates for Melbourne Storm was unavailable. And I did listen to Billy before about Murray Taulagi. Now, he has been in and out for the Cowboys. He was available for selection, but he hasn't had much game time. So I think it's fair enough that Billy has gone with players that have been playing. In the centres, probably the most least surprising of their backline, Robert Toyer, who did a fantastic job last year in coming in defensive efforts he's able to do from the Roosters, and Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow from the Dolphins. Obviously plays fullback, but does a great job in the centres. And then on the other wing, Jojo Fafita, the Gold Coast Titans flyer, named to make his debut. This had been touted for a few days in the leading up to it. This news had sort of leaked that he was in the running. And look, I don't think you can really argue with it. Just the way their stocks have gone at the moment, I think you do give a guy like Fafita a go. I'm glad to see, interested to see what he can do. Cam Munster, of course, the captain, he is there. He has been out of form for most of this season, but the last 2 weeks, Melbourne Storm have gone back-to-back. He had his best game of the season just in time for Origin. I think we said it last week, guys. No surprise. He's just turned it on around Origin time. Yeah, honestly, no surprise at all that Cameron Munster is firing with Origin around the corner, and that's exactly what he's done. His best games in back-to-back weeks at number 6. Now the main man we all want to talk to for this Queensland team, a Mr. Sam Walker. Obviously has a famous rugby league name, comes into this team. Tom Dearden, one player of the series last year, he would have been there. He had a lock. That would have been Queensland scrum base, no doubts about it. Obviously, he's down long-term, may miss the entire Origin series through injury. Sam Walker gets the call. Now, Billy Slater said in his press conference it gave him chills thinking about it. He's handing Sam Walker his debut. He's done a great job for the Roosters the last few years. Remember, he had a rough patch a couple of years ago. I got sent out to cover him in the New South Wales Cup side when he was dropped, and it was a big story. But Trent Robinson, I think, has really nurtured him the way he can play off the cuff. But he's given them this room to grow. I think him and DC have made a great combination at the Roosters. I actually spoke to Sam Walker just a few days ago at the promotion they were doing at North Sydney. And look, he played it pretty close to the chest. I think he's been around the game long enough. He didn't want to say too much about it, but he said he was confident that he could come in and do a job. That's what he said to me. I asked him a question. I asked him if him and DC had even discussed it a little bit, maybe, a little bit of advice. He said, look, it hasn't been anything we've discussed. He gave a pretty PR answer in regards to, look, I'm just focused on footy, one game at a time. And Sammy Walker gets his crack. Someone did ask Billy Slater in comparison to Alfie Langer, of course, famous Queensland number 7. And Billy Slater, a nice little bit of personality we get to see from Billy. He can be quite serious at Origin time. But he said, hopefully he's not like Alfie off the field, which is quite funny. We've all seen the video of Alfie dancing around the tables around Brisbane establishments. It's good fun. Let's get to the next one. Another big one in number 8, Thomas Flegler, the prop for the Dolphins, former Broncos star as well. Billy said it was the most emotional phone call he had to make. If you don't know the story about Tom Flegler, he spent 677 days on the sideline with a shoulder injury. I believe there was really serious nerve damage. There were fears that he might not ever play again. It really did threaten his career. He's the Tully farmer. I remember up there during COVID years, I was up there in North Queensland, and he went back and worked on the farm. So that just goes to show a little bit of that Queensland spirit old Tommy Flegler has. It's a banana farmer. That's what his family does. He went back up there during the COVID lockdown for the NRL season back there in 2020, and I know a few media outlets. We'd actually lined up an interview. I'd spoken to his parents about coming out there and doing a story. In the end, the NRL sort of shut that down. Would have been great to go and get some vision of him working on the farm. But he is back, and I think it's a great call. He's done a job. I think Billy even said, back in his day, before this injury, we forget, he was just about the best prop in the game. Well, not best prop, but top 5 sort of in the competition. I remember when the Broncos had him and Payne Haas. I mean, geez, you think about that now, what a combination with Pat Carrigan as well. That's got to be one of the best 8, 10s and 13s you're ever going to find in the game. So awesome to see Tommy Flegler back. Harry Grant at number 9, no surprise there. He was always going to be the Queensland hooker. He's also been, as well as Melbourne being back in the form the last 2 weeks, he's also been back to his best as well. He's going to do a great job. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui at number 10. No surprise at all. Big Tino is back. Has been down on form. I spoke to Josh Hannay a few weeks ago, and he had no doubts that he would be playing in this Queensland team. Former Maroons assistant himself. Titans have been down. Tino's been a bit down, but one of those players who put the jumper on, that aren't going to let you down. Ruben Cotter wins out in the second row. It's probably the little bit contentious part as well. We got Ruben Cotter and Kurt Capewell. Starting second rowers, obviously Kurt Capewell, the warhorse that he is, still able to do a job whenever he's called upon. He's had to play in the centres before. I don't think I can really argue with them being in that team. I think I like that second row and how it's all played out. And number 13, which was a surprise to many people, Max Plath from the Dolphins on debut. He beats out Paddy Carrigan for that starting lock jersey, which is a surprise. We saw Billy do it last year with Trent Loiero, and he is on the bench as well. So I don't know what we're going to see from Max Plath. He's done a great job coming back from an ACL injury. Workhorse for the Dolphins. They do have a pretty intimidating pack on their day. So he gets a crack at number 13. In the bench now, of course, this is the six-man bench. Like I said, in the NRL, both teams have named 20-man squads. That 20th player is just an injury recovery. They'll still be allowed to go through with the camp, but then go back and play for their club teams on the weekend. I'm just going to roll straight through it. Britton Nakora, Lindsay Collins, Pat Carrigan, Trent Loiero, Ezra Mam, Gemet Shibasaki, and Kulikefu Finifuyaki. Interesting thing, Nakora, and we're going to get into this more with New South Wales, but the new eligibility rules. Now, those are the things that have changed, and some people probably still have a little bit of questioning, and how does it work? They obviously did change it at the beginning of the year. So basically, it means that you can choose to play for New Zealand or England now without compromising their origin status. Previously, they could do that with like a Samoa, Tonga, secondary nations, but they couldn't do it with the major nations like New Zealand and England. That is no longer the case. As long as you're eligible to play for New South Wales and Queensland, you'd played there prior to your 13th birthday, or had their father play for either state, then they do qualify no matter what nationality or what nation, rather, they choose to represent. So Nakora has played for New Zealand. He has been named to make his debut, the Sharks' second rower. Now, I read he was 9 when his family moved to the Gold Coast to play footy from New Zealand. He gets his chance. A bit of a surprise, not because of the New Zealand factor, but because he's been a little bit down on form to bring him in, but he does get his chance. Lindsay Collins, who you think maybe could have started with Tom Flegler, flipping them two, but he was always going to be in the team. Paddy Carrigan, I just said before, surprisingly, he's off the bench. Billy has seemed to like playing Carrigan off the bench. I find that a bit surprising, but it worked last year. Loiero as well, obviously in there as well. Interesting they've sort of named two similar players like that. And then probably a shocking one for a lot of people, Ezra Mam. He's been out of form just as much as Reece Walsh the last few weeks, but he gets the jump as that utility type player. If anyone goes down in the halves, Ezra Mam is going to be the guy to come in. Billy Slater rejected the calls to potentially bring back Daley Cherry Evans for a bit of a swan song. The former captain, obviously, we all know, dropped after game 1 last year. He could have potentially been a utility off the bench. As far as halves go, that would have been a big call. The other call, Tanner Boyd, obviously went down with an ACL injury. The other big name that kept getting thrown around by a lot of journos in Queensland was Jake Clifford, and you all know our boy Josh Bristow. Shout out to Bristow, friend of the show, owner of Jake Clifford Island, or at least a big majority shareholder anyway. A lot of big names in the media game anyway were calling for Clifford to get in, and Billy did sort of say he did get considered. The Tully product alongside Tom Flegler in a small little town in North Queensland as well, in far North Queensland, but he was overlooked. Ezra Mam is electric. We know the Broncos did it with him in the grand finals, the whole final series, and the way he was able to inject that spark. So it'll be interesting to see the role that Ezra Mam potentially could play, or whether he gets any time at all. You'd think he'd only really come in if Queensland are chasing points or if there is an injury. And the other one's Gemet Shibasaki. We all know the incredible story on a train and trial deal last year. Made his way up to Queensland, or ended up representing the Kangaroos at the end of year as well. Doesn't even have a deal for next year just yet. The Broncos look like they can't afford him under the salary cap, and he has been down on form. So probably another one that people were surprised in those two Broncos players. Now, one thing I noticed straight away, it was actually my partner. She said, what Broncos are playing? And I had another look, did a double take. I realised no Broncos in the starting 13 for Queensland. New South Wales has more Broncos starting for their team than the Broncos. Katoni Staggs named in centres. Obviously, Paddy Carrigan will see plenty of game time. But Ezra Mam and Gemet Shibasaki, they could see very limited minutes depending on how the game plays out. You'd think that the main plan would be to have Nakora, Collins, Carrigan and Loiero doing most of the bulk work if injuries or if the game situation needs to call them into it. And Finifuyaki for the Dolphins, a lot of people thought he would be a shoo-in for this team. He's been in incredible form for the Dolphins, killing it on Supercoach as well. You'd think maybe he could have taken the spot of Cotter or Catewell, or at least named higher up the bench. But he is there. Like I said, he'll be in camp, but then he will drop out. Like I said, guys, Reece Walsh, that's got to be the big one coming out of this. This is what Billy Slater had to say about snubbing him. He said, we've seen Reece play at this level a couple of years ago, and he was probably one of the most influential players in the Queensland team in 2023. We know what he's capable of. He knows what he's capable of, and he has a really good understanding of the things he focuses on when he plays his best football. I've got a great relationship with Reece, and I've got a lot of time for him. I love the way he plays his footy, and he's getting there. And we've seen these stories before that Billy's sort of taken Reece underneath his wing as a former Queensland legendary fullback himself to try and get him to where he needs to be. And look, watching the game against the Warriors, even though I don't agree with the decision, you'd have to say he's a player that is a bit down on confidence at the moment, as is the entire Broncos team. So it's not a real shock that he's not going to be there. I think that's just the biggest snub of this team. The rest, obviously, like we said, there are injuries. Jeremy Nene was injured. He wasn't selected. He would have been a walk-up into this team in the second row. I'd say he probably would have started if he was fit, but there's no two questions about it. Reece Walsh is the big snubbing of this team. Let's switch our attention to New South Wales. Now, plenty of surprises in this team as well. Now, 6 new faces, like I said before, for Laurie, Daley. Number one, and that's the biggest one. We've had the debate on this show as well. James Tedesco beats out the incumbent in Dylan Edwards. Teddy, of course, former captain. He's won games. He's won series for New South Wales before. Some memorable tries that have broken Queensland's hearts. He's been just about, and I feel like we say this almost every year, James Tedesco is in career best form despite his age. He just keeps performing. Like the way James Tedesco has been able to play with the Roosters, and I think I remember asking Trent Robinson beginning of the season, what does he do? Like he's just the utmost professional. He's 33 now. He's already played 23 games for New South Wales. Now a lot of people think that Dylan Edwards has been very hard done by. The fact of the matter is they did lose the series last year, despite being in a commanding position. And you'd think there has to be change. The other conspiracy theory out of this is the way that everyone thinks the Origin is going to be played this year. We had NRL Soapbox, shout out to him last week, saying that it really would come down to, are we going to see this 6 again NRL style of football played in the Origin arena? That's the biggest question. Someone asked Laurie Daley at the press conference when he announced the team, what do you think? Have you spoken? Do you have an understanding of what type of football is going to be played? And I did hear him admit, he said he does not know. He hasn't heard anything. But you would have to think there is inside knowledge. There's people talking behind the scenes. If you're picking James Tedesco, the theory was we are going to see a similar product to the NRL with the 6 agains, the fast speed of the game. Dylan Edwards is more your workhorse, your grinder. You can rely on him, do a game plan where you know that he can fit in with Mitchell Moses and Nathan Cleary in the halves. But they did lose the series last year, and I think James Tedesco, simply irresistible form. I thought that was the right pick. As a Queenslander, he's the person I'd be more scared of facing. And he's a really nice guy. He's a leader, obviously former captain, and I don't mind one bit that Tedesco gets the call. I think that was 100% the right call to bring him back in. He's the one who's going to strike fear in Queensland hearts. That's what I think. No surprises too much. Number 2, of course, Brian To'o. Laurie Daley said it himself, the best winger in the game. Hard to disagree. I'd say he's been a little bit down on form this year, but that's because he's just set the bar so high. And you have Milky Jenkins stealing the tries at the moment for the Panthers. Stephen Crichton and Kotoni Staggs. Now, I love to see, as a Broncos fan, I love to see Kotoni Staggs back into this team. There was a real story going around out there that Stephen Crichton was going to miss out, that the Bulldogs' poor form, and we're going to get into that a little bit later in our NRL wrap, he was going to miss out. Kotoni played one game for New South Wales back in 2022. He's been the heart and soul of the Broncos for many years now. Everyone thought with this elbow drop, this UFC John Jones elbow he dropped a few weeks ago, he's had to sit the last 2 weeks on the sidelines, that potentially Kotoni Staggs may have cost himself an Origin jumper. Laurie Daley said it didn't seem to bother him. They thought he'd get the job done. Now, Latrell Mitchell, after Magic Round, ruled himself out with a back injury. He, of course, has been just about the form player in the entire competition, killing it on Supercoach as well. Hard not to captain him every week, the way he's playing and the stats that he's rocking up there. But he did rule himself out. Spoke to Wayne Bennett recently. Wayne Bennett was saying he was very confident that he was going to be fit and right to go. Of course, he missed 2 weeks ago. He was touch and go for last week. He was down on his best over the weekend, well, for his high standard anyway. And now he has been ruled out. So the fears are true. I believe he probably could have played, but he's doing the selfless act. He's saying he doesn't feel like his body's 100% right. He will not be taking his place. So Stephen Crichton or Kotoni Staggs, we'll never know now who was going to miss out. But the theory was that Latrell Mitchell and Staggs would be the centers. So Crichton gets to hold on his position. And Laurie Daley said that he just trusts him. Simple as that. Crichton's a leader of men. You can see what he's done with the Bulldogs. Not so much in the poor form they've had this year. He did miss that flight recently, apparently because someone had diarrhea at the airport. So maybe that's what cost him the role in the end. Apparently they had to wait back while the teammate had diarrhea. There you go. Mate, number 5, Tola Cooler, probably the biggest surprise of this starting team for New South Wales, named to make his debut. He's also a centre, named in the number 5 jersey for Manly, killing it under the Fozball style with Kieran Foran and the Sea Eagles. Of course, they have no Zach Lomax this year, so he's taking that spot. Pretty surprised that a lot of candidates, there was a lot of mail that Josh Adokar was going to get a recall. I love what Josh Adokar can do, but they have decided to go with Cooler. Now, it's going to be interesting. I think the question was thrown up to Laurie, are you worried about fielding the shortest wings pairing in Origin history? As a short king, I do take offence to that question. But it is going to be interesting because it is going to be two smaller wingers. Traditionally, you've got the likes of Zach Lomax, one of the best high ball leapers, if not he was, when he was in the NRL, the best high ball leaper in the game, just about. Brian To'o defies his size with the way he runs. So it'll be interesting to see how Queensland, and I imagine they will, come game one in Sydney, will really target Cooler. He has been playing well the last few years, and a lot of players at Manly have really benefited from Kieran Foran's coaching style. No surprises in the halves. At number 6, Mitchell Moses wins the jersey to partner Nathan Cleary. The other one in contention was Jerome Luai. But honestly, and I think this has been the case for a few years now, Mitchell Moses has been the real heart of New South Wales attack. You've got Nathan Cleary. We all know the story. He's going to go down as one of the all-time GOATs. But Mitchell Moses has been the guy who's been able to come in time and time again and change the trajectory of this New South Wales team. And I think if you look at the games and correlate the ones that he has played, when Mitchell Moses goes down, that's usually a pretty bad sign for New South Wales. But when he is there, he's the one that can really, he's just an Origin player. I know as a Queenslander, we don't like to give the credit too much to New South Wales, but Mitchell Moses is the definition of an Origin player. He's tough. He's got some nice speed on him. He's composed, and he doesn't let game situations get to him, no matter what you make of him off the field. And there are people who don't love Mitchell Moses off the field, but on the field, he puts it all together, and he's always up to the occasion. I think alongside Nathan Cleary, that is the best halves pairing that New South Wales can name. That will be the real challenge for Queensland when they've got a guy like Sam Walker as opposed to Nathan Cleary. I mean, that's a no contest. Stop the fight. Number 8, another somewhat surprising one, not because of who he is, but because probably the form that he's been in. But Adam Fanua-Blake, another one he's one of 3 players for New South Wales who's benefited from this eligibility changes in the rules. He, of course, has been a mainstay of Tonga the last few years, and you'll all say that's in New South Wales now. I think anything about Origin, we just get its spirit. We only named one. They've named 3 players who are playing for different nations for their team, but we all know on his day, Fanua-Blake, he can inspire a team. He would just run the ball hard, run the line. He, of course, is really replacing Payne Haas, who is going to miss at least game 1. He will be partnering Mitch Barnett, another sort of somewhat surprising one, a little bit underdone from injury on the way to the Broncos next year, but that will be the 8 and 10. Reece Robertson wins the number 9. I think we all probably thought that was going to happen. He was the incumbent. Blake Brayley is also in this team on the bench. He was the other one probably really contending. A lot of people calling for Api Coruscant from the Tigers. I don't think that would have been a bad call as well as far as the attacking flair that he brings, and if they do want to sort of go with that 6 again style. But in the end, for the Roosters, he has been doing the job. They've been a team that's been flying high. He gets the nod. In the second row, which is probably just about their strongest position in New South Wales, Hudson Young and Haumole Olakau'atu. Absolutely devastating form Hamole's in. Speaking to Kieran Foran last week before the Manly game, and he had no doubts. He said the most surprising thing for him about Olakau'atu was when he was playing at Manly and then came back and was as a coach for Manly, the maturity level had just gone through the roof. He said the way that his leadership has changed, just the time that I had away for Manly, he couldn't believe it. So to see him back in the team comes with plenty of props. And Hudson Young, the last couple of seasons, pretty much been the form second rower in the competition, the Raiders star. He's been great. No surprises there. Number 13, Isaiah Yeo beats out Cameron Murray for that lock jersey. A lot of people would say maybe he would be better suited off the bench, starting Murray at 13, but they've got both of them in the team. So I think New South Wales, as far as that starting forward pack goes, that's just about the best they could have named. Obviously, I mentioned Payne Haas is a loss. On the bench, and I will just roll through it now. So I said Cameron Murray, Victor Radley, Jacob Saifiti, Blake Brayley, Ethan Strange, Casey McLean, and Dylan Lucas in the 20 jumper. Now, as a Queenslander, this does not strike fear into my heart one bit, this bench. Cameron Murray, of course, does, but a similar player to Yeo. Victor Radley, another winner of the eligibility rules. He represents England, which is a bit of a surprising one as well. He does get his chance. A lot of people have said for years Victor the Inflictor would kill it at Origin level. So we are going to see if that's true. He's known as the Enforcer. He's known for a sin bin or two as well, which could count against him. But he does get his nod. Jacob Saifiti is probably the biggest bolter almost in this team. A lot of people very shocked to see his name. He wasn't making many people's predicted teams before this Origin team was announced. He sneaks in there. Blake Brayley. Now, I got to chat to Craig Fitzgibbon. Sounds like I'm really dropping names here, the way I speak to all these players. But I did speak to Craig Fitzgibbon and had a big chat to him about Blake Brayley last week. He missed Magic Round with a concussion. I did ask Fitzy, friend of the show. Shout out to Fitzy as well, of course. Still got to have our role, Fitzy, if you're listening. You're probably not. But I asked him, do you think he could be undone? He said, no, look, I think he's shown this season. If you haven't seen everything you need to see of Blake, then I don't know what else he can show you. So he couldn't have been more emphatic in his support that he should be handed an Origin jumper, and I think it's well earned. He's been pushing and knocking down that door of the referee in the last couple of years. So great to see Blake Brayley in there. Ethan Strange, another one. He's been there or thereabouts in this team, yet to make his debut, but he is another guy who's been long touted to be in this team. Now, he's only 21. He's represented the Prime Minister's 13 before the Canberra Raiders half. You'd say as a utility, really, injury cover, you wouldn't. He's basically the equivalent of Ezra Mam on their bench. Casey McLean for New Zealand, similar to both teams, are sort of named similar 18, 19, and 20s. Casey McLean, similar to how Gemmet Shibasaki has been used. Another third player for New South Wales. Where's the spirit now? New Zealand normally represents them. He does get his chance at number 19. Again, you'd expect him to see some game time if they go down. The Panthers fly. And then Dylan Lucas, another player maybe a little bit unlucky to miss out on an actual spot in the team. Number 20, he will train with the team and then go back to his club. Beneficiary of just how well Newcastle have been going this year, Dylan Lucas has been in the conversation. I believe he was very close last year, but then got injured just before the Origin series last year. So I think he would have been thereabouts last year. But he does get his spot. There are a few snubs in this team, and I think you're always going to talk about this when it comes to New South Wales because the depth that they have compared to Queensland, it's just a no contest, and the amount of players that they can pick from. But as far as the forwards, and I suppose there are always going to be some snubs, but there's been some pretty big snubs in this team for New South Wales. They couldn't find any spot for Jackson Ford, Terrell May, or Angus Crichton. Angus Crichton, I spoke to him a few days ago as well. He's signed with Rugby Union next year. And I would dare say maybe that did count against him. We've seen Mark Nwanganita-Wase. He was very much in contention. He's another player who went down injured. That didn't seem to bother his chances. Sort of course, in the past with Joseph Swat-Ali'i still getting selected. Didn't work out for the Blues, but still getting selected regardless of where he was going in the future. But he does miss out, and I did find it surprising. It was only a couple of years ago. He was the Wally Lewis and Brad Fittler medalist. I remember speaking to him in the sheds afterwards. He's an imposing figure. He's a leader in that forward pack. I did find it surprising that he didn't even snag a spot in the bench. And he is heading to rugby, so whether that came into it or not, I did ask him about it. Do you think that may have hurt your chances? I think I got a feeling that he was confident he was probably going to get selected, but he said, "Look, I didn't think about it. I don't think it should come into it." But in the end, we won't know. He has been a little bit down on form, but he does miss out. Jackson Ford, a lot of people had him penciled in. He's been one of the form players in the competition. He only trails Nathan Cleary in the Daley M count at the moment. Just goes to show just how well he's actually been playing. And Terrell May. Mate, I have no idea what Terrell May has done to Laurie Daley. He's been carving it up in the NRL the last 2 seasons under Benji Marshall. We spoke to Benji last week at his coach's press conference, and he seemed he didn't want to get drawn into it. I think because he knows the game now, he doesn't want to be too strong, and then if he doesn't get selected, he doesn't want to look like he's out of line with the representative coaches. But he again just said, I don't know what else he has to do to be in that Origin team. As a fan and in the media, I don't know what else Terrell May can do either. He's an outspoken character. He has his vlogs. He's not afraid to speak his mind. Before there was that video floating around last year or the year before where he told someone to throw the Blues jersey in the bin. But whatever it is, I find it shocking that with No Payne Haas, who's sort of a similar player to Terrell May, that they don't find a spot for him even on the bench, and they don't really have like a big body like that coming off the bench. That's why I find surprising with Murray, Radley, and Saifidi. Interesting selections by Laurie Daley. So there you have it. That is the Origin team for Game 1 at Accor Stadium, Wednesday, 27th of May. Their teams will all now go into camp from Monday and train leading into next Wednesday night's clash. So I'd say at the moment, these teams are pretty even. I would normally say New South Wales are a fair step in front. I think New South Wales has a shaky bench. Queensland has a shaky halfback who's untried, and Sam Walker is known to be a bit off the cuff. So it'll be very interesting to see. Obviously, Game 1 is in Sydney. Game 2 is at the MCG in Melbourne, and potentially we will have a decider in Game 3 back at Suncorp. So guys, let me know what you think of the team. Give me a chat. Drop us a comment on Spotify, on Apple, or come to my socials on season ticket holders, find us on Instagram and TikTok. Just let me know what you think of the team. I do want to know your thoughts. I've already spoken a little bit on Instagram before. Shout out to Nathan. He did comment on Instagram saying that, look, no surprise, he trusts Billy that they decided to drop Reece Walsh. He just hasn't been that good for the Broncos in recent weeks, and that is hard to argue. So there we go. State of Origin, guys. Bring it on. That's in Queensland. I did just want to get to good or bad for fans, which will just be me asking myself this week. But good or bad for fans, it was, of course, Magic Round, another success. And we did see the Queensland government announce that the Magic Round wouldn't be going anywhere. It will be in Brisbane, I believe, heading up just about into the Brisbane Olympics. The new deal has been locked in until 2032 with the Queensland government. He did release a story in the lead up saying that it'd be a real shame if it went anywhere else. It looks like Peter V'landys and the Queensland government got a job done to extend it. And by all reports and from all the social media I've seen, there's no better place. And being a Brisbaneite myself from Vegas, the greatest city in the world, it is the best place to have it. Caxton Street's become an institution as part of football that not only Queenslanders can enjoy, now the rest of the NRL can as well. The Wires have been selling crazy merchandise. Dragons fans are left absolutely depressed again. I just want to say good or bad for fans, the poor Bulldogs and Lachlan Galvin. Real sad, but if there's a moment that sums up the Bulldogs at the moment, it's Lachlan Galvin's running through for a try, only to have two players bring him down, not only bring him down, but dack his pants for him to fumble the ball right underneath the goalposts. If that's not a sign of how the Bulldogs are going right now, I don't know what is. After beating the Panthers, they've now lost 5 in a row, and I was having a look at it before. They've leaked 180 points. It's a full-blown crisis now at Belmore, and I think the relationship between Gus Gould and Cameron Ciraldo is going to be strained, and it's going to be very interesting to see where they go. Just the way they've been performing, the way that it's the defense that's just a real big shock of how everything's gone with them this year. Like I just said, how many points they kicked off Magic Round, leaking 38 to the Sharks and a 38-16 loss. I don't know what's changed in the offseason, but it is bad for fans. The fall-off that they've had, especially when Bulldogs fans had so much hope going into this season. And the whole Lachlan Galvin situation, is he a halfback? Is he a 5A? Should he have even been brought into this team in the first place? It just seems to have unsettled everything. The Bulldogs were flying when they had Toby Sexton, even Reed Marnie there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They bring in Lachlan Galvin mid-season. It just feels like things have fallen apart since. So he could be proven wrong. He's a great talent as well, and it can't all be rested on his shoulders, but it just seems to be the catalyst for a lot of things that have gone wrong for this team. Shouting out to the Broncos, now lost 3 in a row. Like I said, real sort of pathetic performance at the moment. I know they're missing some big stars, but they are struggling in Brisbane in front of, I think they actually got booed too, running out for that New Zealand game. They just got absolutely flogged. There's no other way about it against New Zealand, 42-12. Reece Walsh, did not look good. But I do just want to shout out, put my Broncos bias aside, but the flip side is New Zealand absolutely flying right now. Unfortunately, it looks like they've lost Tanner Boyd to an ACL. All thoughts are with him. Very sad to see, especially when he's been in incredible form. He was once in the Broncos system, touted as the next Alfie Langer. Was at the Titans, didn't really get a chance to really shine, and has been career best form this season, and now this. It's a murky situation because the Warriors have allowed Luke Metcalf to go to the Dragons next year. And now he looks like he may have to get recalled. Tamari Martin is there as well. He did the job on the weekend when Boyd went down. But they are now outright second, 2 points behind Penrith, with the Roosters and Sea Eagles rounding out the top 4. So that is a good for fans. New Zealand flying. We love to see a strong New Zealand in the competition. And they're probably even going under, I would say, going under the radar a little bit right now. They were only paying, I think, $1.60 to beat the Broncos, which is absolutely ridiculous. They should have been like $1.10 favourites. I had no hope going to that game. The Broncos were going to be able to win that with the troops that they've had and the form that New Zealand are in. So I don't think they're getting the full credit they deserve just yet. New Zealand are premiership threats in 2026. And Fosball, we spoke all about Fosball last week on the show with the NRL soapbox. Flying again. They've now only lost one game under Kieran Foran, albeit injury depleted Tigers, but they did win 46-18. Like I said, they only lost a close game to the Panthers since he's taken over. Awesome to see what Kieran Foran has been able to do. Really lovely guy. Everyone just has nothing but respect for him, and the players are responding, simply put, like they didn't under Anthony Seibold. Just to round out the rest of the round, guys, the Dolphins flying high, 32-10 over the Rabbits. The Cowboys, they are sneaking up as well, 18-12 of the Roosters. The Roosters had won 6 in a row. That was a bit of a shock. Storm have put back-to-back wins together. Harry Grant and Cameron Munster back in form, 34-8. And the Knights, I watched a large chunk of that game, and when their attack's on, it is absolutely on. Greg Marzu, Dominic Young, Kalyn Ponga, exciting team to watch, the brand of football they're playing as well. Shout out to Caden, a friend of the show, has been on the show before doing media content for their up in Brisbane. Having a good time. I haven't heard from him in a few days, so Caden, if you are listening, please let us know that you're okay. My former junior cameraman, look at him go now. Titans obviously still struggling down the bottom of the ladder. Luckily, the Dragons are making them respectable. And, of course, the Dragons still yet to win a game this season. The Panthers, 28-6. Nathan Cleary didn't even have to have a particularly great game for them to do it. That means the Panthers are still 10-1 for the season on 20 points up the top there, guys. I've spoken a lot, guys. This is a solo show. Just wanted to test it out because I am going to the New South Wales Blues dinner. So it's limited time on a Monday. A quick shout out to the UFC news as well. Massive weekend. Conor McGregor announced that he is returning back in International Fight Week for the first time since breaking his leg against Dustin Poirier back in 2021 in a rematch of Max Holloway, which happened, I think, over a decade ago. So crazy. And Robert Whittaker is on the undercard, looking to snap a back-to-back loss streak, headlining the prelims against Nikita Krylov. And of course, if you didn't catch it, Netflix had their MMA debut on the weekend with Jake Paul's promotion. Pretty weird spectacle if you have to watch it. Very flashy and gimmicky as you'd expect from the Pauls. But Jake had his own little private booth that was all like just in behind the camera with his girlfriend in front of the octagon. But we did see Ronda Rousey come back after a decade out of, I think it was a hexagon actually, but out of a cage anyway. 17-second armbar against Gina Carano to headline. Francis Ngannou obviously got a big, impressive knockout as well in the first round. And then in the co-main, Nate Diaz did not look good. He got absolutely destroyed by Mike Perry. He looked like a faucet. The blood leaking out of his head. What was it? After the second round, good stoppage. I did not want to see that fight go any longer. Crazy. So big weekend of fights, big weekend of football. Well, guys, I just got back from the New South Wales Blues dinner. Big news. Peter Sterling and Boyd Corder inducted into the New South Wales Blues Hall of Fame. It was a fantastic night out there at the Star Casino. I was lucky enough to be invited behind enemy lines as a Queenslander. We don't have to tell them that, do we? It was a great night by all involved, hosted by the great Timmy Gilbert out there celebrating the team, Laurie, Daley announcing it all. Just wanted to give you a bit of an update. Fantastic night that they put in. Food actually wasn't too bad. You could get a Stone and Wood too, so I'm not going to complain about that. But had a fantastic night out there. As I said, Boyd Cordner, shout out to him. Well-deserved induction into the Hall of Fame. And Peter Sterling, Stolo, as you know, if you're a kid growing up like I was in the late 90s, early 2000s, the footy show was the pinnacle of rugby league entertainment for Sterlo and Fatty. It doesn't get much better than that. Legendary guy, nice guy, on and off the field. He did admit he didn't play that many Origin games, but when he did play, he always did a job for New South Wales. So shout out to Sterlo, very well deserved. Fantastic for them. I got to have a few beers. Thank you very much, New South Wales. Bring on Origin 1, guys. I can't wait. It's so exciting. Origin 1, let's go. As always, take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.